There are many different ways to process this major news of the RICO indictment out of Atlanta. It's Donald Trump's fourth indictment. It is the first state charges that relate to the coup. It is a place where there's a mandatory minimum, and there aren't easy ways to pardon. So even if Donald Trump remained a popular Republican, even if he assumed the presidency again, you would still have the legal challenge, the standoff between a state, if he were convicted, where he would need to be incarcerated, and the questions of what happens for an elected president-elect who is legally and lawfully awaiting or experiencing incarceration. Those are many ways. But there's another way. And this is something that's gotten a little less attention because, well, we've all been dealing with all of the other things I just mentioned. Until last night, no lawyer or aide to Donald Trump had actually been charged for stealing the election or coup-related activities. If you're a close news watcher, you might say, well, wait a minute, Ari, what about Bannon? Well, it was process. It was him defying the committee, among other things. What about Navarro? Well, he's awaiting trial, charged again for defying the Jan 6 committee. Important but separate from whether you actually get hit with, for example, a RICO charge for stealing the election. And this also matters because whatever you think of Donald Trump and other people who may try to follow his blueprint, you can't do a conspiracy by yourself. You certainly can't do a coup by yourself. There's no DIY unilateral coup. Okay, this ain't tennis. This is a team sport. And if you start throwing people in prison, as the DA has shown she is willing to do, she said very carefully last night, they are presumed innocent, but she expects convicted people to serve their prison terms, including that mandatory 5 years. If you start throwing a bunch of people in prison, I do not care how cocky or confident they seemed. I do not care how much they said they support this or that politician. As we know from all world history, one thing that hasn't changed, people hate going to prison. And if they actually see a world where it is a possibility, it may change their behavior. I want to bring in now, from Atlanta, trial attorney Katie Phang, host of the Katie Phang Show, and one of the colleagues who's been keeping us informed throughout all of this since I've seen you last night. Good to see you again.
Great to see you, Ari.
Katie, let's start there. There's many things to get into. I want to talk to you about the surrender deadline, as mentioned. But first, big picture, what does it mean that there's so many other defendants and that if any of them get convicted or pay a penalty, according to the DA, that will deter future efforts to steal elections in Georgia or elsewhere?
Well, I think, Ari, to your point, the sheer number of defendants in this RICO indictment that's been brought by Fani Willis actually has more impact, not at the finish line, not at the sentencing, although that really is the incentive for people to figure out during those come-to-Jesus moments whether or not they want to cooperate. Because let's be clear, just because you've been charged in an indictment with multiple crimes, it doesn't mean that now you're not allowed to cooperate. Now you're not allowed to be a witness on behalf of Fani Willis's office. But the idea is, how do we get there, Ari? How many of these defendants, including 8 of the 19 that are lawyers, not all of them having licenses anymore, as we know, but how do we get there? Who actually wants to play ball first? Because that is going to dictate the speed by which this case sees that finish line, that we get to the point where you're looking at the whites of their eyes, that being the jurors, to be able to seat them to sit in judgment. We also have a footnote, a pretty big one, dealing with this possibility of removal to federal court for perhaps Donald Trump and Mark Meadows. But I do think now that you have the lawyers involved, do we anticipate already having issues of attorney-client issues, attorney-client privilege, conversations had between lawyers and their client? How do we operate then outside of the confines of, I was just giving my client legal advice, what he chose to do with it, how we deployed that was up to him? We've also seen a fissure in any type of kind of joint defense already. We know that the Trump PAC is not going to pay for the legal fees of Jenna Ellis. Now, why is that important? Well, up until now, we only have Donald Trump charged by himself by special counsel Jack Smith in that, in the 1-6 election interference case. But we do have a little bit of a joint defense going on with Walt Nauta and Carlos de Oliveira in the classified documents case. They're standing strong, shoulder to shoulder. But that's probably in large part because their fees are being paid by Donald Trump. So when they start to drop like flies, when they start to maybe be the Jenna Ellises of the world and they feel the coldness of being out on their own, would she then turn on Rudy Giuliani? Would she then turn on Sidney Powell? So I want to emphasize one last thing before I stop, Ari. it's not just Donald Trump here. You also have people that have their own individual criminal exposure in this case. So they have to actually be watching their sixes to see whether or not somebody's going to flip on them.
Yeah. And with the 30 seconds or so we have left, what should we expect in this surrender process?
So, Ari, next Friday, August 25th by 12 o'clock. You have to turn yourself in, according to Fani Willis. If you don't do so, the arrest warrants that have already been issued in this case remain standing, which also means that if you're caught, you are going to go to jail pending getting in front of a judge to explain why you didn't show up like you were supposed to. Now, the really complicated thing, Ari, is going to be the arraignments for all of these particular defendants. Do you surrender and be arraigned at the same time? Do you enter a plea of not guilty? Donald Trump already has local counsel in play. He's already been dealing with them, so he doesn't have an excuse, Ari, that he has to delay in any way his surrender and his arraignment because he needs to get local counsel. So we're going to see, I think, a parade of people going in and out of the Fulton County Courthouse behind us between now and next Friday.
Yeah, which will keep everyone busy. Katie Phang, thank you so much. Appreciate it. How did we get here? Well, it started with the January 6th committee's investigation. That advanced things that DOJ and others may not have had on the radar. We know that this new DA indictment uses and advances that material. We have a very special guest on that next.